black sheep, have you any wool? Yes, sir, 3 bags full. 1 for my master, 1 for my dame, and 1 for... Julia and Michael, like all children, keep pestering me with questions about the animals which they hear so much about in their nursery rhymes, sheep being no exception. A recent visit to a wool shop brought on hordes of questions. Where does the wool come from? And where do the sheep get their wool? And so on. I could see that a visit to Uncle Bill's new farm in the South Island was a must. So off we went down to the farm, where the children saw for themselves just exactly what went on. I also learned a great deal. And here is my wool story. Bill had retired and bought a small farm. Even on a small farm there is plenty to do, and his wife Hazel often gives a helping hand. The length of the sheep's wool reaches its maximum length during the winter months, and so in the spring, when all the newborn lambs have been safely delivered, it's time they were sheared, for their own comfort as much as anything. Not all the sheep are kept for their wool. A large proportion of the lambs, when they reach a certain weight, are sent to the freezing works. Here you see a representative from Dalgetty's examining them to make sure they are the right weight. He is so experienced at his work, to feel them with his hands is all the taste he needs to make. A mark is then put on the wool of the selected ones. Bill's flock are Romneys. Romneys were brought from the Romney Marsh in Kent in the early 1850s and were first established in the Hutt Valley in Wellington. New Zealand's Romneys have been developed to suit the country's needs, and a distinctive type has been created. It produces a good fleece of medium to strong crossbred type wool, which is in demand for knitting wools, materials, blankets, tweeds, etc. Sheep farms have their own properly designed wool sheds. They have internal pens which stand well clear of the ground. Sheep can then be accommodated inside and underneath, so that they will be dry for an early start to the day's shearing. Sheep are shorn once or twice a year. This is a very strenuous and skilled occupation. The sheep shearers well deserve the high wages which they earn. Owing to bad weather conditions, the shearer hired for the job was unable to come to Bill, so Bill very kindly accommodated in shearing some sheep for me. Fleeces are gathered quickly from the floor and thrown onto a slatted skirting table, where they are trimmed of brand necks and inferior pieces, rolled and either passed to the classer or baled immediately for dispatch to the wool store. Wool is important to this country and to the world. It is worth more than £100 million per annum. It represents approximately 1/3 of the total export receipts, more than any other single item. More than 70% of the occupied land in New Zealand is in grass, and it has been calculated that 32 million acres of this, or nearly half the land area, is used for sheep farming. New Zealand has over 50 million sheep, of which 30 million are breeding ewes. There are approximately 42,000 sheep owners in New Zealand, so that the average flock is a little over 1,000 strong. The day after the buyers had inspected the wool offerings, Julia and I and Michael visited the store. Our visit was during the winter sales. The buyers had examined the wool on a well-lit display floor. They can tell many things about the wool from a glance. They go through the wool store, studying the offerings before the wool sales, and noting in their catalogues the price they will offer for each lot. These bars represent many nations and travel from sale to sale.
2-1, 2-1, 2-3, 42-3, 42-3, 2-half, 2-3.
Bales of wool were put up in lots, and while I was there, 240 bales were sold for about £14,000. The bidding was not as confused as it sounded, because the auctioneer knew most of the voices, and the buyers had to yell to be in with the competition. A mere wave of the hand won't get them very far. There were about 60 buyers present while I was there, and it was really fantastic to think that by the end of the day, they had bought about £1 million worth of wool. At the wool store, the wool is pushed back and the bales sewn up. After the sale, the bales are branded with the name of the new owner and the destination of the wool: Antwerp, London, Boston, or other great ports. The bales are dumped or squashed together in pairs and tied with steel bands so that they take the smallest space in the hold. Then it is down to the wharf where the ships wait for the long journey round the world. Of every 100 bales of our wool, 97 go abroad. There are 19 woolen mills in New Zealand making many different types of items, such as blankets, knitting wools, jumpers, cardigans, etc. When wool is spun and woven into cloth, the strands never lie closely together. Their crimpness makes them stand apart, leaving little pockets of air. Wool fabrics are always more than half air. It is this trapped air which makes wool a good insulator. If the air around is cold, you keep warm. If it is hot, you stay cool. Because wool soaks up moisture, it does not burn readily, and so is the safest cloth for babies and small children to wear. The strange thing about wool is that when it absorbs damp, it gives off heat. Scientists have discovered many things about wool. One being, it will bend and stretch hundreds of times without breaking. Wool is twice as strong as the toughest wood, and nearly as strong as steel wire. So the next time you pop in to buy a jumper or cardigan, spare a thought for all the hundreds of people involved, so that you, the consumer, can be kept warm throughout the cold winter months. And spare a thought also for these sheep who make it all possible. Yes, it's a wonderful world, this world of wool.